Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the And She Looked Up podcast. As always, I am your host, Melissa, and this is the last episode of 2024. So, of course, Heather Travis is here with me today. Yay!
Hello.
Hey, Heather. So, yes, this is going to be our last episode for the year, not for the season, just for 2024. So, we thought we would
Mhm.
do one of our kind of recap, looking to the future type episodes that we tend to do every year. We thought about stopping them, but then we heard from several of you that you really like those ones. So here we are.
Here we go.
So yes, we are going to, well, I guess we'll just start off maybe with just a little bit of a recap on how our 2024s went. And then we'll get into what
Mhm.
we have planned for 2025 or where we think things are going in 2025 and maybe talk about some of the challenges that I know a lot of us are worried about for next year. Yeah, so yeah, Heather, how has your year been? What has your year been?
This year's been crazy. It's been totally unexpected. Honestly, if you had asked me 2 years ago where I thought 2024 would be, I would definitely not have said where it was. I took a full-time job, which many of the podcast listeners know, and that's been just a total gift. And I think it's more the industry that I'm in, developmental services. It's been a really, I feel like the Grinch every day. My heart grows two sizes bigger, and I experience that every day, which is such a blessing. Artistically, I haven't created a lot. Um, Wrapping up my exhibition was a big deal and really like that whole process was absolutely shattering. It
Hmm.
was the most beautiful shattering. Like I couldn't have asked to be shattered for any better reason. But I was shattered and like just mentally, physically, everything, even artistically. And I think part of what contributed to the hesitation to create a little bit more is that I have a lot of unsold artwork from that exhibition still. And I try very hard to not let that be deflating. But it is because every time I go to my studio to create, there is a stack of canvases of unsold artwork that I'm incredibly proud of. And so while I am a very frugal person and quite often repaint canvases once they've sort of, lived their life, so much of the work for that exhibition will never get painted over. It lives. It will always live, whether it's in a thrift shop or in my mom's garage. It will live. It needs, at least I need to give it the opportunity to live its life as a created piece of artwork that I meant and very was so deliberate about putting it on the canvas, but it is still deflated. It hasn't sold. I have been doing a lot of experimenting. We talked about that in a previous
Hmm.
episode. This year has been a hugely experimental, trying different things, not sharing it online, which is experimental in itself for me. Keeping things to myself and just trying things, throwing spaghetti against the wall, metaphorically speaking. And I think that's yeah, and I think also too, this year has been a lot of deliberately not doing. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I needed to shift my focus to other things. And I think I've been flexing my creativity in other places. I've been doing lots of interesting freelance work and some pretty cool logo design for some cool clients. Uh, I've been really doing some cool mural projects. Those fill my cup up artistically. And the work I do, even, it's creative writing and interesting social media posts and I create fun posters and event tickets and like there's fun things that I get to do creatively that still fill my cup. They're just so totally different from what I had been doing for the few years before that. But interestingly, when I look at the years leading up to those years, they were also drastically different. I think that's the joy of being a creative is that it's not actually same. It is drastically different. And creatively, it's quite cool to see where the river just takes
Mhm.
us, you know? So
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of what the year's been for me. Um, Super highs, super lows, a lot of holy fuck, what the fuck is happening with my life right now? Which Melissa and I talked a little bit about offline, but life is crazy and but it also, I think also the extremes of this year have reminded me and have been such a beautiful opportunity. I am always a glass half full person, and this has reminded me that that is a gift to be that person. And the people around me are a gift, and I have a lot of incredible friends and family and people who I know just through Instagram who, whether they knew it or not, were a great source of joy in my life. And so that's, I just keep trudging along and reflecting on all the good and yeah, seeing where it takes me. But I'm looking forward to 2025, I'll tell you that much. Yeah. And what about you, Melissa?
I
2024?
I
Crazy.
I feel like I'm going to sneeze right now, so I'm just I think it might
That
be
sums up
tomorrow.
2024 for
I,
me,
yeah.
actually. Like, hold, I'm gonna sneeze.
Just as you were coming I knew you were going to throw it over to me, and I'm like, I think
Yeah.
I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2024 has been not what I wanted it to be at all,
Mm.
or not what I thought it would be at all. And I'm I- I'm feeling very much at a crossroads right now. My
Hmm.
mastermind group, we have our annual goal setting video call next week to
Mm.
talk about our plans for 2025, and I am
Mm.
feeling very just I don't even know the
Oh,
word to use. Lost, maybe not ho hum. I mean, I just more like I I
Mm.
don't know the direction I want to go in or where I want to put my focus. I know I need to make more money. I did
Yeah.
not hit my revenue goal this year. I
Mm.
made more than last year, but unless I have like an amazing month in December, but I already know I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hit my
And that Thank You
revenue.
Canada Post, like, do you know how many small
Well,
businesses got screwed
that
in the last
that has been
Rawr. Huge.
yes, I wound up closing both my Etsy shops. I kept my Shopify store open. Most of what
Mm.
I ship goes letter mail,
Yep.
which there's just no alternative for in
Yep.
Canada.
Hmm.
And so I'm using Chit Chats where I can, or that was the plan. But anything under 100 grams, I still can't send.
Yep.
So, but you know what? Based on what happened to me and everyone I've been talking to, online
Mm.
sales just dried up as soon as that strike
Yep.
went into effect. I haven't had a single order since November, like not a
Yep.
single order in
Hmm.
since the strike
Hmm.
started.
Hmm.
And I had to delay my I do a big sale for my newsletter
Yep.
subscribers instead of a Black Friday sale every year. I had to delay
Hmm.
that. About half my customers are in rural areas where there's just no options.
Yep.
Um, and it was also, I consider myself pro-union, and I was so angry. I could go off on a rant here. I probably
I know.
shouldn't, but I was so angry at the government for deciding to send them back to work, a week and a half before Christmas. Like that doesn't
Hmm.
help anyone. If you weren't
Nope.
going to fix it earlier, just let
Yep.
them ride it out. Let them figure it
Totally.
out themselves because
Totally.
you've ruined the season for all, and
Oh,
then with
totally.
this GST holiday, like the small business minister was on the news talking about it the other day, and I was like, we have a small business minister? Where have you been
I
all
know.
year? Like
Yeah, no
we've had
kidding.
port
News to
strikes
many.
and rail strikes and mail strikes, and now you're throwing this tax holiday at us at the worst time of year for us to put that into practice. And it's not even a great like
No
when you
kidding.
actually I can't believe how many people thought that this tax holiday was on everything. Like people, I've seen so many people ranting like, I went to Walmart and they charged me taxes on everything. And it's like, yeah, it's only like four or
Yeah.
five categories that are exempted.
Yeah.
It's so it just the lack of small business support in this country this
Hmm.
year has been very frustrating. And,
Yeah.
your husband runs a small business, you run a small
Hmm.
business. Like we all know it's been a very frustrating year
Yep.
and I have never ever I've been self-employed for 15 years now, and I have never seen the number of small business closure notices
Hmm. Yes.
that I have seen in the last 2 months. So many
Yes.
businesses I have known for years and years have announced that they're closing at the end of the year permanently.
And so other than the Canada Post strike, how
Yeah.
has 2024 treated you?
So
Omit the
it,
strike.
I know. Well, it's not just the strike. It's just
I know.
markets. I had to cancel
Hmm.
all my winter markets because I got a puppy, very
Yes.
unexpectedly. Was not planning on bringing a puppy home till next fall, um,
Mm.
but life happens, and
Yep.
he was
Surprise.
yeah, I know. He was just way too young to leave home alone. Um,
Yes.
for full market days. So, and he,
Yes.
he wasn't vaccinated yet, so I couldn't leave him
Right.
anywhere else. So, yeah, so I canceled my market. So that also
Mm.
was a hit to my
Yep.
Q4
A
has
trade-off. Yeah.
but services wise, I have had my best Q4 that I've ever had.
Amazing.
So that has been great. And if I had had my Q4 revenue that I had been hoping for from my illustration business, I would have hit my revenue goal for the year, I'm pretty sure.
Amazing.
So, a little frustrating, but
Yep.
I wouldn't trade my puppy for anything. Um,
No.
he is
Of
a
course not.
whirling dervish.
Yep.
I have been too exhausted to really do anything more than what I absolutely have to get done.
Mm. Yeah.
But we'll get through that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just we're in the teething stage right now, and it takes till they're about 6 months. You've had dogs,
Yep.
it's like once
Yep.
they're 6 months, things tend to settle down. Other problems
Yes.
arise, but
Oh, totally. Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't chew all the furniture 24/7 once they hit about 6 or 7 months. So so yeah, there's been that. I think but, as I was prepping for this meeting I have next week, I was looking through all my goals for the year and I didn't hit anything. Like
Mm.
and I think what I realized with bringing Joey, my puppy, home, in the first few weeks is I just realized how completely overwhelmed with grief I had been this year and not even realizing it. And, grief for my dog, grief for
Yep.
my relationship that ended, grief for having to
Yep.
sell a business that I loved.
Hmm.
Um, and we lost some family members this summer. Like it all just compounded.
Yep.
And I thought I was managing it, dealing with it,
Mm.
but
Yes.
once
Grief is tricky like that.
grief is very tricky and it's never the same
No.
twice. Like it's
No.
different every
Hmm.
it's so yeah, and then bringing this puppy home and suddenly realizing how much I had to be present.
Yes.
I realized how much I had not been present all year.
Mm.
Like it was like I had
Hmm.
completely detached from the world and was just basically doing the work I had to do and then in the evening just sitting there watching TV and
Yep.
doing nothing, eating
Yep.
basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
And except during gardening season, I'd go out and garden for an hour.
Right.
And that seemed to be the only thing that kind of soothed my soul a little bit.
Hmm. Yes.
So yeah, it's been kind of it hasn't been the year that I wanted. I yeah, it's been a blip, I think. I hope it's a blip.
Hmm.
But I feel like this puppy has forced me to come out of the
Yes.
mist and
Yes.
really start focusing on other things. And that
Hmm.
is what I'm hoping to do. But as we get into talking about 2025, and I don't know how you feel about this or what, but one
Mm.
of the things is I've been really thinking about what I want to do is a lot of my goals for 2025 are similar-ish to 2024
Hmm.
with a few exceptions. But what I realize is that I'm doing the same thing every year to try and accomplish these goals, and I'm not really moving the needle in the way that I want to. And so I think
Hmm.
that's where I'm a little bit stuck right now and why I'm feeling a bit blah is because I feel like I feel like I can't keep doing the same thing over. The
Yeah,
definition of
yes,
insanity is like banging
a
your head
hundred
against the wall
percent.
and
Yep.
expecting things
Yes.
to change, or doing
Yep.
the same thing over and over again and wondering why nothing changes. And so I just realized a lot of the strategies I'm using are strategies that worked 5 or 6 years ago, but I think
Mm,
they don't work anymore. And I think I don't know what does work. I don't
right.
know what direction to go in with all the things that I'm thinking about for 2025. And I
Mhm.
feel like there needs to be a big shakeup. And I think part of the reason I was doing the same thing over and over again is because it did work for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to
Hmm.
keep doing things work, even though it's
A
not
hundred percent.
necessarily pushing the envelope
Yeah.
forward or
Yep.
challenging you or pushing you out of your comfort zone. So that is what that's sort of where I've ended the year.
Mm,
And now I'm trying to, like, I have a list of things I'd like to see happen in 2025, but I don't know how to make them happen. I'm feeling very
right.
lost and a little bit, yeah, lost. I guess that's the best word for it. So,
Yep. Yes.
yeah. Anyway, thank you for letting me vent and have a little therapy session there because I think I needed it. Thank you all for listening to that.
Yeah, exactly right.
Um, yeah, so for 2025, what are you hoping to see happen? Like you've got a lot that's in flux
Mm.
right now. So have you put together some ideas of what you want to see in 2025, or are you just going to wing it or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between, honestly, I waffle between, I mean, my general modus operandi for a lot of things is like fuck around and find out. At the same time, I feel like there is an opportunity to shake things up. And, I can't, like one of the deep thought, I do a lot of, I need a whiteboard in the shower or I need Alexa in the shower. I need something so that I can be like, capture my thought. Because the number of times I literally yell from the shower to Brian, I'm like, get a notepad. Because I have a lot of deep thoughts in the shower. But
Me
one of the
too.
thoughts that I've had, yeah, one of the thoughts that I've had recently is if I am so proud of this artwork, what is it doing stacked in my studio?
I was
And
going to ask you
so,
that. That was one of my
yeah,
questions.
yeah. And so, how can I get more eyeballs on it? Is that hosting more studio open houses? Is that the only hitch? And it's just a logistics nightmare to get everything from point A to point B. That's
Mhm.
the hitch with my artwork. It's large to require like it doesn't all fit in my car. I would need to drive back and forth 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
A couple of the pieces don't even fit in my car. Like it's just that just it won't work. And so logistically I need to figure that out. There's a few things that I just need to jump over. And if it's worth the hurdle, so if it's not a weekend of showing my artwork and me driving back and forth, but if it's a month long, opportunity and that's where I need to make those opportunities because I think one of the things that I have gotten complacent on is that recently things just started to sort of come to me. Like, and I know that you make your own luck. So obviously I was putting myself out there. I was talking to the right people. I had artwork hanging in the right places in order for all of the things to come to me. But right now I'm sort of just I feel like I'm riding a horse I've been riding too long.
That's a
And I
good way to
need
put
to
it. Yes.
yeah. And I just need to change it up a little bit. Um and so that's my big I know it sounds waffly, but that's my big thing for 2025 is I think I need to change things up. And perhaps change focus a little bit. I really love doing murals, like really, really. Um, they require quite a lot of pitching effort. That's
Mhm.
something I need to find time to do. But I think if I dedicate myself to it, that's something I could be successful with. And so there's a couple things that I just want to do more of. And yeah. And I'm okay changing it up, honestly. I'm okay changing it up. I am quite happy to like I just did a talk recently about how you and one of the things was how you identify yourself. And even though I have a full-time job, I still consider that my side hustle. When I sit down next to somebody at a dinner party, when I meet somebody in line at the post office, what do you do? I'm an artist with a capital A. I'm an artist. That's how I identify. But that doesn't mean that I just paint on canvas or that I'm just a muralist. It could mean a lot of different things. And so I'm quite happy to embrace the capital A artist and just wind wherever that takes me. But I think I really do to continue the analogy. I really think I need to get a new horse. Yeah.
Yeah. I fully that I think you and I are feeling very similar
Hmm.
actually. And I
Hmm.
think the way you just said it, just been riding the same horse for too long. I think that's a really good way to kind of capture how I'm feeling too,
Hmm.
is just need to shake
Shake it up.
things up. I don't like being a follower. I like being somebody
Hmm.
who forges their own path, and you are very
Yeah.
similar in that respect. And yeah, right now I feel like I'm just kind of treading water, treading,
Yeah.
and not
Yep.
um yeah, so that's and you said something else there too that I was thinking about earlier this week, speaking to somebody else about how not necessarily that you are lucky, but that you kind of make your own luck and you plant a lot of
Hmm.
seeds and you get things in the right
Hmm.
places and it comes to fruition. And I think that's
Hmm.
so important. We've talked about this a lot on the show about planting seeds and getting things out there, and that does have a snowball effect. And then it starts to snowball and
Hmm.
you have all these things coming in and you're having a great time doing them all, but while you're focused on them all, you stop putting seeds
Correct.
out, right? And so
Exactly.
I think that's a challenge for a lot of us is like we put the seeds out, things start happening, and then we get so caught up in executing all these
Yes.
amazing things that the seeds, we stop scattering the seeds. And
Correct.
so when those
Yeah.
things come to an end, we're like, I got to go back out into the garden and chuck some seeds around again. And I
Exactly.
think that's probably where we're both at. We've kind of and that's one of the things I really noticed this year. Like I was getting at the beginning of the year, I got so much word of mouth
Mm.
uh, business for the services
Hmm.
side of what I do. And so I was just madly trying to bring all these people on and not screw things up too badly, which I
Yep.
kind of did. But that forced me to get systems in place. Fortunately, I
Yep.
don't think anybody really noticed beyond me, but I was
Yeah.
completely
Yeah. Yeah.
overwhelmed. And so, got systems in place, but because I was just trying to get everything going and it all happened so quickly, I stopped sending out my newsletter. I stopped
Hmm.
doing a lot of the things that helped me generate a lot of those
Yep.
leads. And so now
Yep.
here I am in December, and I realize neither of my newsletter lists have grown this year, like at all, because
Yep.
I have just
Yep.
stopped
Hmm.
putting,
Ditto.
yeah, I've just stopped.
Correct.
And so that's
Yep.
one of the big things for me for 2025 is I just need to be more visible again. I need to,
Hmm.
and social media is just not the way to do it like
No.
anymore for me. I'm not leaving social media or anything like that, but it is
Hmm.
not the eyeball generator that it used to be. Um,
Oh God, no. And honestly, the amount of times that like people are like, "Wow, that looks cool," and they ask a question that I'm like, "Wow, I have posted about this 57 million fucking times."
yeah,
And this you're acting like this is the first time you've seen it.
it
And
probably is.
and that and that's exactly it. And that happens more often than not, including people who and this still bamboozled me, honestly, because I guess when you don't have a business account, when you don't make your account on Instagram professional, you do not have access to insights. But Melissa and I, and every small business owner, or even any person who calls themselves a digital creator, has access. And it blows my mind. They're like, you can see that I saw your stories. I'm like, yes, I have told you this for a decade. I can see who has seen my stories. And it blows my mind when I know for a fact you have seen, quote, everything, and yet you're asking this question like you've just seen it for the first time.
But that says a lot about how we interact with social media. Like
Hmm.
we're just mindlessly scrolling it or
Correct.
watching it, but we're not processing it.
No.
And so I think yeah, people are seeing your stuff, but they're not seeing your stuff,
And that's exactly it. So like it needs to be, I mean, I use LinkedIn a lot more deliberately. I've been failing at that a little bit, but
Me
and
too.
that's I think for me, I set a goal for using LinkedIn more strategically a couple of years ago, and again, it was a planting a seed. I did it. It yielded.
Hmm.
and then I forgot to go back and
Same,
do it
same.
all again.
I went
And
in a
so a
couple
lot
months
of my
ago.
goals are actually like, and so it's funny we say we're trying, but some of them I'm like, no, I need to go back and do that again because that was actually worth it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's a couple of things, but I think I just need to shake things up. I think that's the big thing for me for 2025 is really to shake things up. And honestly, it's funny I started that sentence that way, but to be a little bit more honest with myself. I think a lot of this 2024 year, I was conning myself into thinking I was doing more than I was. Oh, yeah. And yeah. And
But you know what? That's
I mean,
okay.
I know it's
Maybe not
okay.
the
I'm
conning
fine with
yourself
it.
part, but it's fine to not do as much. And I think
Totally.
you had an incredibly intense couple of years leading up to your exhibition,
Hmm.
and you know it's that whole wave energy. You needed to
Totally.
ride the wave in and just
Yeah.
sit on the beach for a little bit,
Totally.
right? And I think it's
Yep.
the same with grief. You do all this, you know, grief forces you to
Hmm.
sit for or
Yes.
you know, just process things differently or not
Pause.
process them or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. And I think
Yeah.
um yeah, and I think you're right. I was the whole conning yourself. Like I thought I was busy. I thought I was doing
It,
stuff. And it wasn't until
it,
something came along that shook things up. I was like, I wasn't doing anything.
correct. Exactly. And it's funny because when I look and think, I'm like, yeah, I've created stuff. Then I'm like, wow, I made and sold one painting. Uh, yay me. But still,
It's
like
one
it
painting.
was,
It's one more than zero.
and that's exactly it. It's not zero. And so I have to remind myself of that. At the same time, you know, I think I felt like I was doing more. And
Hmm.
even, yeah, I think I felt like I was doing more. And until I actually sat back and started looking at it and took like a real hard look, yeah, I was really glass half fulling it.
Yeah. What what are you thinking you might like to do in 2025? Is there anything you want to sh that you can share with us or would like to share with us or
I think for sure the murals, like really
Mhm.
stepping up the mural game is a big one. I have been doing some logo design projects and I would love to, there's a lot of really interesting things. I think it's maybe being back in that sort of business world. And it's not so much logo design, interestingly, because I find that depending on the client, tricky.
I don't do
Uh,
branding anymore and I'm a graphic
yeah,
designer.
yeah,
I
exactly.
don't do branding.
But I see so much opportunity for creative practice in business. And so I have been approached uh, for some really interesting things to do with Shirt for 2025. And that has tickled my brain in what is also an opportunity to sort of expand to blow my shirts out of the water. Because the joy that Shart brings, we'll call it art therapy nature of it, is something that has really tickled my brain and why it has always kept ongoing for me. And even recently, the last chart, which was Saturday, December 7th, when we did it, I had multiple people and I did it. So the exercise was a breathing exercise, alternating between our dominant hand and our non-dominant hand, quite literally drawing a Christmas tree, but with every breath in and every breath out, you drew sort of a line of the Christmas tree. And you can sort of, if you're looking on YouTube right now, you can see the video, the way my hands are moving. But it's a very elementary Christmas tree, nothing deep or meaningful about it, no artistic skills or talent required. And it was just a reminder, and it was a reminder that I needed to give myself, which was to just take deep breaths and be present in the
Yeah.
moment and enjoy the process. And I had multiple people send me text messages and DMs after saying, I was having a shit morning and I logged on Instagram and there you were. And I did this. And like 20 minutes later, I feel right with the world. Thank you so much. And that, I don't care that it was only 20 odd people who were on that session and that three of them took the time to reach out. That was the greatest gift that I could have received was hearing that feedback. And that I want those gold stars. That's what I want for 2025. It's not me. And so it's not about me and the gold stars, what it is. And I joke, but the gift of giving that and being that person through art and through just being real has something that has really tickled me this year and has sustained me. Being able to do Shart has sustained me
Hmm.
and that connection in the community. And I would like, and so sorry to tie that back together, doing branding exercises and brand strategy and understanding that teams of people, and I understand this from where I work, teams of people are stressed, underpaid, overworked. They need to feel connection with community. They need reminders that they're special and important and meaningful and that their contributions are valued. And taking time to do something creative, whether the result is awesome or shitty, hence Shart, is a great opportunity to bring that in. And so I would like to do more, we'll call it corporate art. So both corporate branding, so murals in offices to liven up teams and bring happiness and joy and color to spaces and places where people spend 9 to 5, but also through workshops and seminars. That's something that I would like to do more of. And that was only tickled, interestingly, because somebody who is a member of the shark community reached out to me with a really interesting proposal, and I won't talk about it because I haven't signed anything yet. It's still in discussions. But there could be like a whole exciting opportunity for shark that just brings it to more people. And I would love, I think that's yeah, I just want to shart all over the world.
That's awesome. I think you'd be so good at that too. I think
Yeah.
that totally fits just all your
Yeah.
whole skill set that you have and the type of person you are. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. But that, and so for me, that's shaking things up. That's for 2025, shaking things up, finding a new horse, revisiting some perhaps old goals that worked well, and then ditching things that didn't, and then really planting seeds. I think that's a
Hmm.
big one, to use that language. That's a big one for me for 2025 is to I still want to ride through the world as a rhinestone cowboy who declares herself an artist, and I can't ride that horse if I don't at least try some new things this year.
Yeah.
That's the way
I
I
think
feel.
that's part
Yeah.
of being a creative is you have to be willing to try new things.
Hmm.
The that's what creating is. You're creating new
Correct.
things,
Exactly.
right?
And like once I am not an assembly line. And so that's, I think, the big thing is that I started becoming a little assembly line-ish. Not
Hmm.
that I created the same thing over and over again, but I felt a little stagnant. And that's, yeah, rode the ho same horse too long. That was the, so this
Yeah.
year we're getting a new horse and we're bedazzling the saddle.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, yeah, for 2025, I think one of the decisions I made in 2024 was to become, rightly or wrongly, was to just avoid anything negative on my
Mm.
Instagram.
Yes.
I
Yes.
stopped talking about uh politics, the news, all
Hmm.
that stuff, which is something I've always been fairly vocal about.
Hmm.
And I just decided I really just wanted my Instagram to become a place that would be
Yeah.
joyful to people.
Yes.
And it was a very conscious decision. It doesn't mean I'm not engaged in the world. It's just I've
Hmm.
just chosen not to use that as my venue
Yep.
to be engaged with the world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so that is something I really want to focus on for 2025 is just brightening people's day. Like
Yeah.
honestly, when I go back to how everything started with my illustration business. It was with this little red-haired stick
Yes.
character
Miss
who
Doodle.
Miss Doodle, who people just fell in love with. And the reason they fell in love
Hmm.
with was not because she was great art. She's not. She's a stick figure,
But
as I say all the
but
time.
she's perfect.
She
She's
is
perfect.
perfect. And it's so funny how over the course of, I don't know, I've been drawing her. It's probably about 10 years now that I've been drawing her.
At least. Yep.
And it is so funny how emotionally attached I have become to this little figure. She is a
Yes.
person to me with a
Totally.
full
Yes.
personality and a soul
Yep.
and everything.
Totally. Yes. Just like
And
Casey and Finnegan. Yes.
yes,
They're, yeah,
and I
characters. Yes.
don't. I haven't been drawing her as much because I've just been focusing on other types of artwork and
Hmm.
stuff and try, let's be honest, I've been trying to create things that are a little more commercial
Great.
because I got to sell to make money,
Yep,
right?
totally. I hear ya.
Um, but but the reason I went down the road of starting an illustration business was because of Miss Doodle and how she
Hmm.
made people feel. Everybody used to message me and say, I love seeing her. She brightens my day. And
Totally.
I feel like the state that the world is in right now,
Yep,
that we need those little snippets.
totally.
You see a lot of stuff on social media. I don't know how people can talk about these things that don't matter when there's all this
Hmm.
stuff going on in the world that is really, really heavy.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to word this without sounding obnoxious. I guess.
Mm.
But
I understand where you're going. Yes.
it's if you look back in not far back in history, but fairly recent history. So like let's take World
Hmm.
War II as an example, or the Great Depression. The
Hmm.
Great Depression saw this outpouring of the
Hmm.
movie industry. The movie industry
Hmm.
took off during the Great
Off.
Depression. It was
Yep.
like one of the golden ages of Hollywood.
Hmm.
The
Yep.
reason was it was an escape mechanism for people who
Hmm.
were miserable. It was a
Yep.
dime to go see a movie and
Hmm.
people could somehow manage to find that dime. And a dime sounds like pennies to us today, but a dime was a lot of money back then. You
Hmm.
could go get a piece of pie in a diner for
Yes.
40 cents with a coffee, right? Um, so, but that is it was out of despair that this
Hmm.
industry became huge. And then you move on to World War II, and again, the movie industry had another boom because it was a way for people to just for a moment, for an hour and a
Yes.
half,
Totally.
escape the
Yep.
misery that was going on in the world. And it was an escape
Yep.
mechanism. Then we had the pandemic, and where did everyone flock to? Netflix, YouTube,
Netflix.
everywhere these people
Exactly.
where there was just stuff to take your mind
Yep.
off it. And I think that while it is very important for us to be aware of what's going on out in the world, because we're citizens of this planet, and
Hmm.
I do feel
Hmm.
very strongly that we need to be aware and we need to
Yep.
fight the things that we think are wrong, and we need to do all that. But at the
Hmm.
same time, we need to take breaks. We we need to have
Totally.
moments of joy. We need to have moments of things that we can celebrate or that pick us
Yes.
up because fighting the fight is exhausting
Yes.
mentally, physically,
Yes.
and it's a lot. And I also find it really interesting the way boomers get kind of bashed around. And
Mm.
and and if you look back in history to the people who were raising the boomers, these were the people who went through the
Hmm.
Depression and the World War. These
Yes.
are veterans who came home with no mental health support, who had seen
Yep.
atrocious things, and they did the best they could, right, with what they were dealing
Totally.
with.
Yep.
So, and this is why when you see things that are going on in other war-torn areas across the globe, we're just creating more generations of people who are going to be raising kids
Yes.
who have experienced tremendous trauma and now they're
So,
trying to raise
yes.
children, right?
Yes.
That is going to impact those children.
Yep.
There's just no way around it. Um,
Yeah.
so I do think for us as creatives, where I'm going with this is for us as creatives, there is absolutely a place for us to bring joy and to give people a
Yes.
moment to have that just little boost that they might need. And I
Yes.
think there's also a
Yep.
place for us to use our art to fight the fight
Hmm.
as well. Like there is a
Totally.
place for us in the world right now, if it may be more important than it has ever been for us to have a
Yes.
place in the world and to remind people that there is beauty out there and it's worth fighting for and it's
Totally.
worth
Yes.
like we can do both. And so that is one of the things I really do want to focus on for the coming year is just because I do think the coming year is going to be very challenging.
Hmm.
globally for so many
Hmm.
reasons. And I
Hmm.
think there is going to be a need for people to just have those little moments that pick them up and,
Yeah.
yeah, just remind them that there's good things
Yeah.
out there and those good things are
Totally.
worth fighting for. So that's my
Totally. And I think
soapbox.
too, I'm totally with you. And that's why Shart for me is a big because it's the
Yes.
driver is it's that moment of respite,
Hmm.
but also a reminder of the connection of community, particularly and this is what I love about Shart is that we have people quite literally tune in from all over the globe. I have people who tune in regularly from Germany and Australia and then all over Canada. And like that is crazy to me. And they've never met each other, but they follow each other on Instagram and love each other through
Hmm.
art. And that's a beautiful thing. And so bringing people together for just a moment of joy through a creative venue, whether it's a simple doodle or a breathing exercise, I think that that's like those are momentous.
Important.
Those are not little things.
It's giving
Yeah,
people strength
totally.
to keep going with whatever
Yes.
it is that they are
Yeah.
challenged with at this particular moment in time. And
Yes.
I, I, I don't let anybody make you feel like now is not the time to make art or now is not the time to celebrate these little things. It is
Totally.
always the time to
And the best music, like the best music and the best art comes out of the toughest. Like that's you pressure makes diamonds. That's what happens. And
Mhm.
so I think this is the time. And if you're stressed about something, and that's even my exhibition, like those are opportunities to use your creativity as therapy for yourself as a creative. So like express yourself, and you'll find community around whatever it is that you're trying like yeah
Yeah.
yeah
I
I'm
have
totally with
this.
you.
I'm gonna hold it up. I don't, you won't be able to see it if you're just listening, but if you're on YouTube, you'll be
Eee.
able to see her. This was made by a Ukrainian artist that I have
Oh
followed for
my
years.
God.
And obviously
She's like Miss Doodle, but in
she is, but she's Miss Sunshine. So
yes,
there's like a little,
yes.
isn't she a freaking adorable?
Adorable.
Anyway, this particular artist, we've been following each other on Instagram for years, pre-conflict,
Hmm.
and she lost her husband in the war in Ukraine. He was killed, and she has a young daughter and a dog, and uh,
Jesus.
it and she's still creating amazing art. She's
Well,
figuring it out, you know. It's so you see these artists who are being bombed and
mm,
losing family members and things, and they
yeah,
are still finding a way to create.
yep,
Um, and I think, yeah, because it's part of us, it's part of who we are, but at the
totally.
same time, I
Yep.
think it is therapy for us
Yeah.
to
Yep.
do that when we've
Mhm.
suffered great loss. And yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's my little sunshine girl, and I have her on my desk. So she's actually meant to be a pendant. This woman makes big chunky jewelry, and
Mm,
the 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 necklace feeds
gotcha.
through these, but I just have her on my
Gotcha.
desk, and I just like to look at her every day. And when it's
Yeah.
sunny, which it isn't very often right now, I have her on the windowsill so the light goes through her.
Yeah. Comes through. Exactly. I was thinking it's like a little piece of stained glass. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely something that is really my focus for this year and
Hmm.
this coming year. And yeah, just like I said, getting in front of more people. And I haven't figured
Hmm.
that one out yet because
Yeah.
I keep defaulting to social media and it's just not working. So I have to
Yep. I'm with you. What does
figure
that look
something.
like?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't
I know.
know just
I
yet.
know. I'm currently I've decided on a variety. I've made a list of like ridiculous options. So one is literally making myself a sandwich board and just walking around. Uh, like I'm like, all right, what are the stupid things? And I don't mean to say stupid because nothing's stupid, but
Goofy,
like
maybe goofy or
goofy,
silly.
exactly. And so it's like, nope, not doing that one, not doing that one. But then it's like, well, why does my mind go to those goofy things? And what is it that is actually like viable about it? I think that's, and so if I'm trying to start from a place of fun, because otherwise I find it a little stressful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think I actually I think about your cousin actually, Alexandra, we had her on the
Mm,
show,
yes, yes,
Alexandra
yes.
Newbold, and how she just goes to clubs and bars and stuff and draws, and people
Yep,
come up to her and ask her questions, and the bands
I know.
sometimes ask her, and I'm just like, she's just going where she loves to go, and she's drawing
Totally.
while she's there, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's really cool. It's a great way to,
Honestly, I was at the conference that I spoke at a couple weeks ago. One of the girls in the audience, and it was a conference for creatives, so it was a creative symposium was the name of it. Anyway, and one of the girls in the audience came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to see? Here's my doodle of your presentation." And literally,
very
she had a
cool.
two-page spread, and she'd done a little doodle of me, and she had little quotables, like different things, and it was
Yeah.
like all kind of. It was kind of like one of those whiteboard design. Anyway, it was so fantastic. And I was like, oh my God. Of course, I took a picture of it, shared it on my social media. Like it was absolutely, and it was such a, like, what a creative way to capture the conversation. Like it was an hour and a half long keynote that I delivered. So,
Hmm.
like, what a
Hmm.
cool way for her to capture all the information. But then, what a neat interaction opportunity to just
Yeah.
come up, just as you said, in terms of what Alex does, sitting in bars and just like drawing things and having people approach her. Like you just, I think it's a simple way to just put yourself out there. And
Yeah.
how can you, yeah, I think that's a brilliant example because it's such a fun way to shake things up.
I've done it at my last two markets. I did a pop-up in September and I did a market in the spring. And part of the reason I did draw at those markets wasn't so much to strike up conversations as it was because people didn't think the artwork on the things I sold was
Was
mine.
you
And this is
right?
a very common thing that I'm hearing from so many creatives who have been very active at markets this year is just the frustration level at people
Yes.
thinking their work is not theirs or that they purchased the artwork.
Hmm.
So this was my solution. I'm just going to sit there and draw, and then they can see I'm an artist. But
Yeah.
the
Yep.
number of people who have stopped, who might have gone right past my booth, but have stopped to say, "Oh, do you actually draw this?" or "How do you do that?" Because I usually do it on my iPad because I'm at a market
Yep.
and it's just easier, and I have my iPad anyway for
Yeah, totally.
selling.
Yeah.
Um, And so they have so many questions. How do you get the artwork off your iPad? Like, how do you turn it into a
Hmm.
card? Like, you know, super curious and they want to see the whole process. And that has been a really interesting way to spark conversation. So,
Totally.
yeah, so I do think there's a place for that. People are very curious, particularly if they
Hmm.
don't view themselves as creative, as to how
Yes.
other people create. It's especially when they can see
Absolutely.
it. When they
Yes.
just see the finished item on Instagram, they don't think twice about how it was
No.
created. But when they actually see a person in the process, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, that's my favorite part of doing a mural project is
mhm.
having people interrupt me, and they're always you can see the hesitation because they're quite literally interrupting
They can
me
tell you're
at the
working,
same
but at
time.
the same time, yeah.
Oh, exactly. At the same time, like it makes me so happy to turn around and stand there with my paintbrush drying and explain the whole process because people are fascinated by it. And then it's a memorable opportunity to speak about your artwork. It's also a great way to show your passion for it. And I think that's what, particularly just to go back to what we were saying earlier on the sort of sharing joy, as a creative, when people see what you do and see that you actually love what you do, I think that that is a huge, like the appreciation they have, I think is even deeper because you're not just doing it for the dollar. You're doing
Yes.
it because there's a deep, and like when you talk about your process and you talk about how you do things, it could be same for a lot of people. It could also be incredibly unique to you. Regardless, a person, if they've asked the question, they want to hear the answer. And I think that's such a
Hmm.
great opportunity for connection.
It's a
Yeah.
great way for people to understand that this is a craft,
Yeah.
that this is that it takes skill, that it takes thought, that there is
Yeah.
because people don't necessarily appreciate that, but when they actually see the process and they
Hmm.
talk to you and they understand what goes into it and they start to realize it's
Hmm.
not just drawing something on a piece of paper and suddenly
Totally.
magically it turns into
Totally.
something else,
Yes.
or they start to understand that there's a lot more to it and it's 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 really cool to see
Oh, yes.
the understanding come into their eyes as they are like, wow.
Totally.
And there's actually a lot of work that goes into this, and it's cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great one. The other thing I started to
Hmm.
do, and I've been having so much fun with it. A friend actually asked me if I would consider doing a calendar for 2025, and I
Oh,
hadn't
cool.
thought about it, but I have always done, you can kind of see them in the background. It's blurred,
Yes.
but they're up there. I did do a couple of these little doodles eons ago,
Hmm.
for certain months of the year, and it was just little things for the month. And then I started thinking about doing one for Advent, just because
Oh.
it's 24 days, right?
Yep, yep.
And so I did, I'm gonna see if I can share it here. So this is my
Cute.
sketchbook. This is a sketchbook that I have been very precious about. There is only one
Yep.
other, and this is from years ago. And
Wow.
then the rest of the book is empty
Empty.
because I didn't want to mess the sketchbook up. It's a very
Yep.
nice, rather expensive sketchbook, and I just wanted everything in it to be perfect. It's such a
Yes. I
dumb
hear you.
thing. And I know there
I
are so
know.
many other illustrators and artists out there going,
Oh no.
yes, yes, I do the same thing. We have these,
I feel very seen right now,
right?
actually.
We have these precious
Yeah.
sketchbooks where we just, and
I
it's,
know.
so anyway, I was like, I have to start using this because I can't go out and buy another's, I can't keep buying sketchbooks that I
No,
never fill.
correct.
So I thought, you know what? What if I just did a little teeny tiny doodle every day for Advent? And I wrote out a list. Here's my list. It's just on here. You
Yep.
can't really see
Yep.
it. And I came up with something for every day. And so that's what I do. And now that you can actually see the sketchbook, you can see like these are tiny,
Yep.
tiny. I'm using a zoom
I can
filter
see.
that, so it's
Yeah.
hard to,
I know.
but
I
these are
see though.
really, really tiny because the idea is to get all 24 on one page. And I
Right.
was thinking as I did it, as I started working on it, that that could be a calendar page, but I
Yep.
don't know if it will be or not. But it has been so fun to do. They are the
Yeah.
perfect size, and I decided to do them with watercolor. I don't know why, because I don't know anything about watercolor, and
But that's make probably makes it even more fun because it's
it is
so out
kind
of
of
your
more fun.
comfort
Well,
zone. Yeah.
I'm very impatient. You can't be impatient with
Yeah.
watercolor. Like
Oh,
I'm not good at
I've been experimenting with watercolor and literally it's like, oh my God. Like I'm in acrylics and I fucking blow dry things. Like that's how quickly I'm like, dry faster. Yeah.
right? And it's like if you
Yeah.
rush it, you ruin it. It's just
Oh,
the first few were just a mess because I just
no
got
kidding.
so impatient to add the next color in
Correct.
and just
Yes. And then I just create puddles. That's what I create, pages with puddles on them. That's what my watercolors look like. Yeah.
so I am getting more patient and but it has been, and I also changed it from doing it in the evening to it being the first thing that I do in the morning,
Oh, fun.
as kind of like just a nice little way to create to start your day. And they
Yes.
literally take me 10
5 minutes.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I gotta wait for the paint to dry. That's why it takes 10 minutes.
Right.
If it was
Gotcha.
just the doodle sketch, it would take like a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Right? That's perfect though.
So
That's
that's
perfect
been
though.
really fun. Yeah, and I think I just want to do more things like that. Just
Yeah.
remind myself, and because this is a sketchbook project, it was never meant to be anything
Yeah.
more than
More.
a page in my sketchbook for me.
Yes.
And I think I need to
Yes.
do more of that type of work where it is not about, like you said, you've been doing stuff this year that you haven't been sharing.
Yeah.
And I think I just need to do more of that where, yeah,
Hmm.
I'll share it if
Yeah.
if it looks good, but
Totally. Yep.
it's I shouldn't even
And
say
you're not
that. It's
making
not,
it for anybody. You're not, and
no,
it's
I
not
am
con.
making it for me. And if I don't share it, it's not a big deal. Yeah, that's just something that I am doing for
Mm.
myself. And I started thinking about it and I'm like, I could probably do that for 365 days. I'm not committing to it because I don't want to
No.
put pressure
Yeah.
on
Like it's not a
myself, but
365-day project, but
no, it's just going to be
yeah.
like if I can open my sketchbook for 10 minutes every morning, most days, I think that that is a good way for me to start the day. So I definitely
Yep.
want to do that. Um, yeah.
Cool.
So other things that have kind of been weird, like, you know, I want to do more SEO work this year, but I don't know what
Mm.
SEO work looks like in 2025. Like things have
Yeah.
changed so
So
dramatically in the
much.
last two
Yeah.
years. So again, I could go back and do all those things that I used to do that I knew worked and that I've
Yeah.
kind of
But
neglected,
I
but
don't
I
think
don't
those
think
work
they work
anymore.
anymore.
No.
And figuring out where the place for AI in my business is.
Yeah.
And because I do
Mm.
think there is a place for it. I think there's a place for it for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been using it quite interestingly for a lot of
Yeah,
projects.
there's lots of ways that you
Yeah.
can use it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a place for it uh, in my creative process, like the actual
Mm.
process of creating for me at this time.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that is not what I want. It's interesting. I do a lot of writing for a living. I probably make most of my revenue from writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I worry every day that I'm going to lose that to AI.
Oh,
But this has been
yeah.
my busiest year. And frankly, I've had so many people come to me because I don't write with AI and
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they find it very generic sounding and they want
Yes.
somebody who has a
100%.
voice.
Yeah.
And so I think there will be a place for me, whether it's writing everything from scratch always,
Mm.
maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
but there will be a place for me to refine work that's
For
created
sure.
through. So
For
yeah, I
sure.
think I think it's going to be an interesting year technology wise for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So um, yeah, I think the only other big question mark I have for next year is just the state of business in this country,
Oh.
small business in this country. And I know a lot of people are very nervous about the tariff
Mm.
situation, which
Mm-hmm.
will impact all of us if you sell on Etsy
Mm-hmm.
and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you sell on your own store, because it's not us that pays the tariff, it's your customer that pays the
Yep.
tariff. So it's
Yep.
not us that needs to worry about implementing it. It's your customer has to worry about paying it. So
Yep.
and I am going to be doing a Patreon episode for December on that to talk about that. So for those of you who follow us on Patreon or on our Buzzsprout um, premium subscriber network, you will get that episode this before the end of the year. Well, actually, it's probably already out if you're listening to this because this episode's going to air on December 30th. It is not December 30th when we're
Right.
recording it. So if you would like to hear that, you can sign up for our Patreon over, it's just Patreon/ and she looked up. And yes, I just want to say, first of all, before we wrap up, do you have anything else
Mm.
you want to share? Or are you good? Or
No, I mean, I think I would like to maybe get on a soapbox for a millisecond and
sure.
say to everybody else
I've
who's
done it twice
listening, I
today, so
think,
why not?
yeah, I think the opportunity, I think one of the things that Melissa and I, well, we consistently agree on a lot of different things, but I think one of the things, particularly as we head into 2025, is to never forget that you need to make art that makes you happy and that I think sharing that joy is something we can all step up our game for in 2025 because I think that that's what the world needs. And so if we could all take that as a personal challenge, I I think I think that would be a good thing. Yeah.
I 100% agree. I think Threads is a very interesting social media platform. I really liked it at
Yeah.
first. I've kind of avoided it now because I find it
Mm.
a very negative place,
Yes.
particularly for creatives. It feels like it's
Yes.
a venting platform for creatives,
No
and
kidding.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't need that energy
No.
right now.
No,
Thank
yeah,
you
no,
very
thank you.
much.
Uh-uh.
So, um, so yeah, I am definitely looking. I want to see what people are creating. I want to
Mhm.
see your work. I want to see what you put out there. Send it to me if you need to. Like if you feel like it's not getting, send it to me.
Yep.
Send me a DM and say, this is what I've been working on. I thought you might like to see
Yeah.
it because I would like to see it.
Yep.
You
My
know, I,
favorite DMs are, I look at my shirt. Those are my favorite
yeah,
DMs.
absolutely. Absolutely. One of my
Yeah.
absolute favorite ones is, a follower who I can't remember how it came about. We know each other in real life as well. And, she had mentioned that her daughter was really into learning to draw and stuff. And I sent her daughter a bunch
Mm.
of my stickers, like seconds that I had that hadn't
Yep.
cut quite perfectly. And I
Yep.
sent her a bunch. This was quite a while ago. Anyway, she sent me for a while. She was sending me some of her every time her daughter created something, she would send me a picture of it, and I
Fun.
loved it. And I
Yep.
haven't seen anything
Yes.
in quite a while. I hope she's still drawing and stuff. But it was one of my favorite
Yeah.
things to get. Was like,
Totally.
so yeah, if you yes, send me your artwork.
Totally.
I'll
I
look
love
at
it.
it for sure.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, so yes, bring more joy in 2025 because I
Mm,
think we're going to be dealing with a lot of hard things in 2025. So
yeah.
if you can bring more joy to the table for yourself or for others or just share it, I think there's a place for you. And
Yes.
there's other places to share besides. I created a bunch of bookmarks this year, which I kind of love, and I've decided I'm just going to stick them into library books when I return the books to the library.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do
I did
it.
start
Do
to
it.
wonder if like they shake the books out, when they before they put them back on the shelf. And then I
I don't
thought,
think
oh,
they do.
I don't know. I don't know if they do. But one thing I have noticed is on hardbacks, they cover them with that plastic wrap at the library.
Yeah.
And I have taken out books very often that have the person's library receipt with the due
Yes.
dates.
Yes. Shoved
Actually,
in the
I
side.
love finding those because I'm a mystery reader, and usually
Me too.
I find new mystery authors. It's like, well, that person really they liked this book and they read these other ones, so I'm gonna try these other ones.
I,
Anyway, so I thought about
yes.
shoving the bookmarks in that slot because I don't think they
Yeah.
fall out of there. So anyway, I'm just gonna do that. Just,
Totally.
I like the bookmarks. So these are readers.
Totally.
They obviously
Yes.
use bookmarks. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could even do it. You could even do it in like your favorite books, like go into a bookstore and put them into books that people are gonna buy, like actually buy and take
you
home.
could, I think they're far less
Would you
likely
get
to
in
get
trouble?
shaken. I don't know if you'd get in trouble or not. I mean, I guess if somebody spotted you,
I feel like
but
they're far less likely to get shaken in a bookstore.
exactly, people they don't pick them up when you
Yeah.
go to the checkout and
No,
shake them
no.
out, right? So
No, exactly. A librarian cares. A
yes.
chapters employee could give two shits.
No, I just went and
And
bought
I
a book.
apologize profusely if you're a chapters employee, but it's just a
Uh,
generalization. I'm
I
gonna
uh,
put one on a different level when
I
it
just
comes for love of books.
I went to Chapters last week and bought a couple books, and nobody shook them out. So,
No,
same with the magazine I bought,
exactly.
nobody shook that out. So
No.
yeah, you probably
Good.
could. But I feel like the library is like my kindred spirit people.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And that's a good
They're
place
there
to love
reading for
bomb things.
themselves, right? As opposed to
Yes,
buying gifts for others.
exactly.
Um,
Yes.
anyway, yeah, so maybe that's just I'm doing
Yeah.
it to spread joy, but who knows?
Yeah.
It could plant a seed for my business as well at
Totally. Yep.
the same time. Yeah, so I think we'll probably wrap up here. Before we wrap up, I do just want to thank all our patrons on both platforms who have supported the show this year. It is why the show keeps going. So, for all of you listening, those people are the reason that we're still here. So, thank you so much to all of you and for the wonderful feedback and questions I get from you all. It makes this um, it makes me feel more connected to the people who are listening to the show.
Mm.
Um, I also want to thank Valentina, my fantastic assistant, who has been managing a lot of my social media for the podcast this year because I was just fed up with doing it. And she is amazing, and I love her to pieces. And thanks to you, Heather, for being here so much this year and always. And these are my
Pleasure.
favorite episodes to record when we get to hang out
Mm.
together. So
Hmm.
look forward to having you back in the new year.
You bet.
And thanks to all of you who listen.
Yes.
I'm glad that we are in your my doorbell just rang. I don't know if that
Yep.
picked up on my mic or
Nope, I didn't
not.
hear that. Ding dong.
That's probably
It's
a sign
2025 calling.
we should wrap up. Anyway, yeah, so thank you to all of you, and I hope you all have had a very happy holidays, and I wish you a very creative 2025.
Mhm.
Yes. All right,
Yes.
everyone, we will be back in a new year in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode, and we will talk to you all then.